Cold open. The air in the room thickens, not with smoke, but with an unspoken tension. A husband finds his car keys missing, again, just before an important meeting. His wife, feigning innocence, shrugs, "Oh, I thought you put them on the hook. My mistake, I guess." A subtle smile plays at the corner of her lips. A colleague, asked to prepare a crucial report, delivers it days late, riddled with errors, claiming, "I had so much on my plate. I just couldn't quite focus." You understand, right? The words are apologetic, but the outcome, devastating. These are not isolated incidents of forgetfulness or incompetence. They are deliberate acts, cloaked in plausible deniability, designed to wound, to control, to punish. They are the insidious whispers of passive aggression. Consider the human psyche, a complex tapestry woven from desires, fears, and vulnerabilities. Beneath the surface of polite society, a darker current often flows, a subterranean river of hostility that refuses to breach the surface directly. This is the realm of passive-aggressive behavior, a subtle, often unconscious, yet profoundly destructive form of aggression. It is a psychological weapon wielded by those who fear direct confrontation, yet yearn to exert control, to express anger, or to resist demands without ever having to bear the uncomfortable burden of overt conflict. It thrives in the shadows, leaving its targets confused, frustrated, and questioning their own sanity. The quiet saboteur, the subtle manipulator, the master of the backhanded compliment. These are the architects of a silent war. A war fought not with raised voices or open hostility, but with carefully deployed forgetfulness, veiled insults, and calculated inefficiency. This documentary will journey into the chilling depths of this dark psychology, dissecting its origins, its manifestations, and its devastating impact on individuals and relationships. We will expose the intricate mechanisms by which passive aggression operates, revealing how this seemingly innocuous behavior can become a potent instrument of control, eroding trust, and leaving a trail of emotional wreckage in its wake. Prepare to confront the discomforting truth that some of the most profound psychological battles are fought not with a roar, but with a whisper. Introduction. In the vast landscape of human interaction, few psychological phenomena are as pervasive, yet as consistently misunderstood, as passive-aggressive behavior. It sits on a knife edge, perpetually ambiguous. Is it genuine oversight or calculated malice? Is it a symptom of weakness or a sophisticated form of manipulation? For centuries, this peculiar expression of hostility has puzzled philosophers and psychologists alike, its covert nature making it notoriously difficult to pin down, let alone address. Yet, its impact is undeniably real, a corrosive force that silently eats away at the foundations of trust, intimacy, and productivity. Why does this matter, and why now? In an increasingly interconnected world, where our lives are intricately linked in personal relationships, professional teams, and broader communities, effective and honest communication is paramount. Passive aggression, by its very definition, obstructs this. It creates a toxic fog of uncertainty, where intentions are always opaque, and genuine resolution remains perpetually out of reach. It forces others to expend immense emotional energy trying to decipher hidden meanings, to interpret subtle cues, and to navigate a minefield of unspoken resentments. The cumulative effect is devastating. A breakdown in empathy, a surge in frustration, and a gradual erosion of any genuine connection. Unlike overt aggression, which presents a clear target and often provokes an immediate response, passive aggression offers plausible deniability. The perpetrator can always retreat behind a veil of innocence, claiming misunderstanding, forgetfulness, or even a lack of malicious intent. Who, me? Aggressive? I was just trying to help. This psychological sleight of hand is precisely what makes it so dark, so insidious. It weaponizes ambiguity, turning sincerity into suspicion and directness into an impossible demand. It forces the recipient into a frustrating dance of accusation and denial, leaving them feeling unheard, invalidated, and often, quite literally, crazy. The darkness lies in this deliberate obfuscation, in the refusal to be accountable, and in the quiet satisfaction derived from subtly undermining another's well-being without ever having to face the consequences directly. This phenomenon is not merely an inconvenience, It is a fundamental obstacle to psychological health and relational harmony. Understanding its mechanisms, its roots, and its profound effects is not just an academic exercise. It is an essential step towards fostering healthier environments, clearer communication, and more authentic human connections. We delve into the shadows of passive aggression not to condemn, but to illuminate, to understand, and perhaps, to empower those who are caught in its silent grip, whether as perpetrator or as victim. Main content: the very concept of passive aggression, as a distinct psychological pattern, has a relatively recent origin in formal psychology. It was first explicitly identified during World War II by psychiatrist Karl Menninger in 1945. Menninger observed soldiers who, rather than directly defying orders, expressed their resistance through a range of behaviors such as sulking, stubbornness, procrastination, and intentional inefficiency. They were not openly rebellious, but their actions effectively undermined authority and mission success. He termed this passive-aggressive personality disorder, describing it as a chronic pattern of covert hostility. Mendinger's initial observations laid the groundwork for understanding this complex behavior. He recognized that the aggression wasn't absent, it was simply expressed indirectly, channeled through inaction or subtle obstruction rather than overt confrontation. It was, at its core, a form of protest, a silent refusal to comply, born out of a perceived lack of power or an inability to express anger directly. This historical context is crucial, as it highlights the foundational characteristic of passive aggression: the veiled expression of hostility or resistance. It's a shadow boxing match, where one party isn't even aware they're in the ring, while the other lands invisible blows. The darkness here lies in the disingenuous presentation, the smile that masks resentment, the helpful gesture that conceals sabotage. It's a deliberate misdirection, a psychological feint that disarms the target, making it nearly impossible to defend against. Over the decades, the understanding of passive aggression evolved. While once categorized as a formal personality disorder, the latest editions of diagnostic manuals, such as the DSM-5, no longer list it as a standalone disorder. Instead, it is now more broadly understood as a maladaptive coping mechanism or a pervasive behavioral trait that can manifest across various personality types and in response to different situations. This shift acknowledges that passive-aggressive behaviors are not always indicative of a pervasive personality pathology, but can also be learned responses to specific environments, often stemming from deeper psychological roots. One of the primary psychological roots of passive-aggressive behavior is a profound fear of conflict. For individuals who exhibit this pattern, direct confrontation is often perceived as terrifying, dangerous, or overwhelmingly negative. This fear can stem from early life experiences where expressing anger or disagreement led to severe punishment, rejection, or emotional abandonment. A child who was consistently shamed for showing frustration, or who witnessed volatile arguments that ended in pain, might learn that direct assertion is not safe. Consequently, they develop a survival mechanism: how to get their needs met or express their displeasure without inviting the dreaded direct clash. The aggression then goes underground, manifesting in ways that are difficult to pinpoint or challenge directly. Consider the case of Elias, a graphic designer who consistently missed deadlines on collaborative projects. When his team leader, Sarah, would approach him, he'd offer a litany of excuses. My internet was down, my cat was sick, I had a headache all week. He'd maintain a genuinely apologetic demeanor, expressing frustration with himself and a sincere desire to do better. However, the pattern persisted. Sarah, a direct and results-oriented leader, became increasingly exasperated. She couldn't accuse him of malice because he always seemed so distressed by his own failures. What Sarah didn't know was Elias's childhood. His father was an authoritarian figure who would erupt in volcanic rage if challenged. Elias learned early on that direct defiance was met with severe consequences. As an adult, his fear of authority figures translated into passive resistance. He couldn't say no to Sarah directly, or express his overwhelm, because the internalized fear of her anger, even if Sarah was rarely angry, was too potent. So, he would forget or fail, as a way to say no without actually saying it, and to punish the perceived imposition without explicitly taking responsibility for the punishment. His apologies were genuine in their regret for the outcome, but not for the underlying intent to resist. This intricate dance of veiled defiance illustrates the profound impact of learned fear, shaping behavior in ways that are deeply damaging to professional relationships. Another significant root lies in low self-esteem or a pervasive sense of powerlessness. Individuals who feel incapable of asserting their needs or boundaries directly, perhaps due to a belief that their voice doesn't matter or that they lack the inherent right to express dissent, often resort to indirect methods. Passive aggression becomes their clandestine way of reclaiming a sense of agency or control. If they cannot openly refuse a request, they can covertly sabotage it. If they cannot directly challenge an unfair situation, they can subtly undermine the person or system they perceive as unjust. This covert exercise of power provides a perverse satisfaction, a feeling of getting one over on others, even as it prevents genuine resolution or growth. Take the example of Maya, who felt constantly overlooked in her large family. Her older siblings were boisterous and dominant, always taking center stage. Maya, timid and soft-spoken, rarely got a word in edgewise. As an adult, when her siblings made demands on her time or resources, she would agree with a faint smile, but then consistently forget important details, or arrive late to family gatherings, or accidentally spill wine on a sibling's new carpet. Each act was minor, deniable, yet cumulatively, they created a subtle friction. Maya's low self-esteem prevented her from directly saying, "I don't want to do that," or "I feel overlooked." Instead, her passive-aggressive actions were a quiet rebellion, a way to assert her frustration and exert some control over situations where she felt powerless to articulate her true feelings. She inflicted small, deniable punishments, subconsciously evening the score for years of feeling marginalized. This subtle form of retaliation, born from a perceived lack of power, illustrates how low self-esteem can fuel the dark fires of passive aggression. Furthermore, passive aggression can be a learned behavior. Children who grow up in environments where direct communication is suppressed, where anger is expressed indirectly, or where covert manipulation is a common family dynamic, often internalize these patterns. If a parent consistently uses sarcasm instead of direct feedback, or if a sibling uses the silent treatment to punish, a child might learn that these are effective, albeit unhealthy, ways to navigate conflict and express displeasure. The behavior gets reinforced because, from the perpetrator's perspective, it works. They avoid the discomfort of direct confrontation, and they still manage to communicate their displeasure or exert some control, without facing immediate blame. This reinforcement solidifies the passive-aggressive response as a go-to coping mechanism, making it increasingly difficult to break free from the cycle. Now, let us examine the diverse and often bewildering arsenal of tactics employed by the passive-aggressive individual. These are the specific behaviors that make passive aggression so frustratingly effective and so challenging to address. Each tactic is a carefully constructed smokescreen, designed to inflict damage while maintaining an air of innocence. One of the most common manifestations is procrastination and intentional inefficiency. This goes beyond simple laziness. It is the deliberate delaying of tasks, or performing them poorly, as a covert act of resistance or punishment. A subordinate who resents their boss might accidentally misplace critical documents, or complete a project late, claiming overwhelming workload or genuine oversight. A partner who is angry but unwilling to vocalize it might forget to pick up groceries, causing inconvenience and frustration for their spouse. The key here is the intent behind the delay or the poor quality. It's not simply incompetence, but a disguised expression of anger or a silent refusal to comply. The forgetfulness is a strategic weapon, allowing the aggressor to undermine without leaving any fingerprints of malice. For instance, a manager assigns a task to a subordinate they secretly resent for a promotion they didn't get. The subordinate agrees enthusiastically, but weeks later, the project is stalled. When questioned, they blame external factors. "I couldn't get the data," "the other team wasn't responsive," all while subtly enjoying the frustration their delay causes. They avoid direct responsibility, yet achieve their hidden objective of creating difficulties for the manager they secretly resent. Then there is the sharp-edged weapon of sarcasm and the backhanded compliment. These are insults or criticisms artfully disguised as humor or praise, making them incredibly difficult to challenge. That's a very unique outfit choice. I could never pull off something so bold, a friend might say, implying your attire is terrible without actually saying so. Or, in a professional setting, you're so brave for taking on that project, considering your past challenges with attention to detail. The words initially sound complimentary, but the underlying message is a clear put down, leaving the recipient feeling uneasy, confused, and subtly diminished. If challenged, the aggressor can simply retort, "What? I was complimenting you. You're too sensitive." This psychological maneuver allows them to wound without ever taking responsibility for the aggression, forcing the target to question their own interpretation and emotional response. Consider a family gathering where a sister, jealous of her brother's recent promotion, exclaims, "Oh, you finally got that promotion. Well done. It's so good to see you achieving something after all these years of trying. We always knew you had it in you." Eventually, the surface words are praise, but the emphasis, the tone, and the subtle implication of long-term struggle and delayed success transform it into a cutting remark, designed to diminish the brother's achievement while maintaining an air of familial support. Another powerful tactic is withholding. This can manifest as the infamous silent treatment, where a person deliberately withdraws communication, affection, or attention as a form of punishment. It leaves the recipient feeling isolated, ignored, and desperate to understand what they've done wrong, often leading them to chase the aggressor for an explanation that never comes. But withholding isn't limited to silence. It can also be the deliberate withholding of information, resources, or emotional support. A manager might forget to include a particular team member on crucial email chains or invite them to important meetings, thereby subtly